So drinking this cab makes me feel like I've never had a real cab before. Just,
How cool is that?
it's insane.
I love it.
It's amazing. Hi, I'm Tiffany Alexandria of Choo Choo Kachu, and I am here with Justin
Hi.
from Argo.
How's everyone? How are you?
Good, how are you?
Oh, cheers me.
Cheers. Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
I'm thrilled to be here.
This is delicious.
So what we have here is 2021 Chardonnay from Sonoma Mountain in Sonoma County. This is our Le Rayon Vert bottling. So this is we work with 3 different Chardonnay vineyards, and this is the bottling we do where we choose our favorite barrels and we blend them together. So it's not a vineyard designate. It's not coming from a single place. The sole goal in making this wine is to make the best wine possible.
Oh my gosh. This is like, I don't know. This is Chardonnay?
This is Chardonnay.
What?
Well, the old saying is there is only 2 kinds of people in this world. Those that love Chardonnay and those who have not had the right one yet. So I love Chardonnay. I'm a Chardonnay hussy. Beth and I, my wife and partner in Argo Wines, we drink way more Chardonnay at home than any other variety. So we are dyed-in-the-wool Chardonnay lovers. And so when it comes to making Chardonnay, we are all in.
I would definitely say that I just never found the Chardonnay that I enjoyed. Now I found one.
Let's take you to the river.
Oh my gosh. Okay, tell me more about Argo Wine. Like how did you guys get started? Like why did you decide you wanted to make wine?
Yeah, so you're implying something there that might not be true. I don't know if we ever decided to do this.
Okay. We're forced into it?
No, quite the contrary. Sometimes you just take your wheels off or your hand off the wheel of life and it guides you in a certain way, right? And so our backstory is pretty unique for the industry, and the winery itself is relatively unique for the industry. We're 3,000 cases, so incredibly small by the standards of the industry. Like there's boutique wineries, there's micro boutique wineries, and then there's us, I suppose. But it's just Beth and I. I handle the winemaking, she handles the business side, and then we both dip our toes into each other's pool fairly regularly. So
wow.
It's a 2-person operation, and 3,000 cases is the number we've always wanted to be at. We slowly grew there, began in 2007, totally not on a whim, but it's very much a hobby. I was doing some home winemaking. I grew up in Chicago, and there's not much.
I was like, how's the wine scene?
Yeah, exactly.
How's the winemaking?
Not grape growing, winemaking, not much of a scene. Pretty good consumers for sure, but and I just fell in love with wine as a consumer, and living nearby to a great bottle shop, and I was in my early to mid 20s. There's no real wine love in my family, so I came to it pretty much on my own. Fell in love with wine, fell in love with everything about it. Wine itself, the culture behind it, the history behind it, the way it's just the world over. It informs so many cultures. It's incredible, and there's such a great story behind it. It's one of the cornerstones of civilization, and we, as humans, we've been enjoying this beverage for over 8,000 years for a reason.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for that level of success, and I started to wonder where it came from. And so I started to do some home winemaking again in Chicago.
Where'd you get the grapes?
You can imagine.
Import them from California.
Exactly right. There was this outfit in Napa Valley that would rail car 5-gallon pails of grapes across the country. They'd flash freeze them with liquid nitrogen.
Wow.
Send them across the country on a rail car, and then I fermented them in my father's basement in food-grade garbage cans. And so that's where it started. And then in 2005, 2006, 2007, I would go out to Sonoma County during harvest season and work harvest internships. And so that's how I got my foot in the door on the production side of the business. And at the end of the 2007 harvest, I'd gotten to know vineyard owners and winemakers working at the winery that we're still at to this day. It's where we make our wine. I bought a ton of Syrah from a vineyard owner that I'd gotten to know and made my first 2 barrels of wine in a professional facility.
How exciting is
It
that?
was pretty cool, yeah. And in a way, it was an extension of the hobby that I had started back home in my other life. But it was also like chasing the dream at the same time. And the goal was certainly always to get to a place like this, but at the same time, envisioning that path is nearly impossible.
Right. You don't know, like, I don't know where my next step actually is. I think I see, like, for doing food things or, like, YouTube channel types of things. It's like, I think I see a vision there, but you just keep moving till you get there.
And it's sort of that old saying, like, you get to a certain spot and you're like, if I knew then what I know now, I never would have started doing this.
Yeah, I sometimes wish I would have started sooner or earlier, but honestly, like, I probably couldn't have because I didn't know what I know now. So here we are. Drinking wine.
Drinking wine. Chardonnay. And so that first wine I made was a Syrah, which as a consumer has always been one of the grapes I'm most passionate about. And then the second year I went back out and I added some Chardonnay, made a barrel of Chardonnay. Third year I added a couple barrels of Pinot Noir. Fourth year I added Cabernet Sauvignon. And that's essentially the entire portfolio. But we're talking like minuscule amounts, like 50 cases, 35 cases, like super tiny amounts. And that being said, you make 50 cases of this, 35 cases of that, 25 cases of that. Those boxes slowly start stacking up, right? And making it is great. And there's that artistic side of the business, but there's also the side selling. Yeah, and so you got to learn how to sell, and that came as the boxes start piling up. You start to realize, wow, this is more wine than I can drink by myself.
Wait. So when you started making the barrels, you were originally just envisioning drinking for yourself and gifting to family and friends?
It's well, coming at it with no connections to the industry, like no real mentorship or anything, no one pulling me aside and being like, hey, you should think about where you're going to sell this wine. Obviously, it always lives in your mind. You're like, and I started knocking on doors once I got my first wine in bottle, and I always say it's a lot easier to find people that will take checks from you than people that will give checks to you. So so a lot of phone calls, a lot of cold calls, a lot of walking into retail shops and saying, hey, do you want to try my wine? A lot of rejection. You have to have a thick skin. You have to learn how to hear the word no. But it's just, you just keep going. You just keep going, one foot in front of the other each day. Those first 5 years, so like 2007 through the 2010 vintage, is that 5 years, 4 years? I refer to it as the beta version of Argo, sort of a testing ground. Have a business, but whether or not it's something that's going to go into the future is a little less known. But after the 2009 vintage, I sent some of my wines off to Wine Spectator to be reviewed, and that's a bit of a harrowing process. You just send the wines to them. They never respond to you. You don't know if they're going to taste them. If they do taste them, you don't know if they liked them. You find out as a winemaker or winery owner, you find out the scores you're getting the same day all
the
their
public
subscribers
gets
do.
it. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So,
that's crazy.
The 2009's got some really nice press, and
awesome.
It got Argo exposure on a national level. Wine Spectator being the largest wine magazine out there from a subscriber standpoint. And it was a really cool story. I was actually flying from California to Chicago in December to go back to see my family at the holidays. And I got off the plane and it got turned on my phone and had received a bunch of text messages from friends of mine in the industry that were like, did you see that you're in the
That's
latest
amazing. That is so exciting.
Spectator? So yeah, that was pretty cool. And that led to us getting our first distribution partners, in particular my first out-of-state distribution partner, which was the state of Oklahoma, which to this day we work with the same people in Oklahoma. they're not just partners of ours in the business, but they're great friends as well.
That's
And
super cool.
we go there every year, and our wines are widely available in Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And so that's become a great partnership, and we love selling our wines there. But that really helped me make the decision. So all this time period I'm talking about, that entire time, I'm still based in Chicago.
Oh.
And working my day job, which I was.
What?
I was a software engineer.
Wow.
I was writing code for financial services industry in Chicago, and so I was doing that and splitting my time between California and Chicago. Probably more in Chicago than California, but as the years went by, slowly transitioning out west, and going into the 2011 vintage, it really started to see the path to full-time viable business. And that was the year I moved all my attention to the winery and being out in California, and expanded production to 1,000 cases.
Wow.
Taking
That's
a big
amazing.
step. Yeah, so starting with that first year in 2007, making 50 cases of wine, to 2011 making 1,000. That's pretty
That seems really
relatively fast.
Yeah.
But really the big jump was between 2010 to 2011, when went from 450 cases or something like that in 2010 to 1,000 in 2011.
Yeah.
And 2011 was also the year that I met my wife and business partner in Argo at the winery while sorting Sauvignon Blanc grapes. So
What a romantic story.
a very romantic story. It was the very start of harvest. She was interning with a good friend of mine, and I walked into the winery one day at the beginning of the harvest season. I saw that these friends of mine were at the sorting table sorting grapes, and I just stepped up. It's relatively collegial atmosphere at the co-op winery. And I just started sorting grapes, helping them out, and there she was standing across the table from me. And that was, we had a harvest romance, if you will. And 2011, thankfully, was a bit of a slow harvest. It was a little bit of a short
So you had
crop.
time to go on
So
dates?
might have had some time to be distracted from the winery. And that was, we've been relatively inseparable
Amazing.
ever since.
Argo, I heard Argo wine has a cult following.
So in particular, if I were to say that we have a cult following, the reason that is the case would be because of this next wine that we're going to try, the Bastard Tongue Pinot Noir. And so we were just talking about 2011 being a pivotal year for Argo for a number of reasons, not just because we expanded production. I went full-time into the business, not just because Beth and I met in 2011, but also 2011, I started with Syrah, expanded into Chardonnay. It wasn't until my third vintage that I expanded into Pinot. And I was just working with one vineyard, making a small amount of Pinot in 2009 and 2010. But I'm now spending more and more time out in Sonoma County, which the zeitgeist of Sonoma County is so dominated by Pinot Noir. It's one of the greatest places in the world to grow this grape. This grape that, generally speaking, has ruled the zeitgeist of the wine world for the better part of 800 years, coming from Burgundy, and Burgundy always having this incredible reputation, the wines of Burgundy having this incredible reputation, and Pinot Noir being the only red grape grown in Burgundy. It wasn't until probably the 1990s that Sonoma really started to come on the scene as one of the world's premier Pinot Noir grape growing regions. So that by the time I got out to Sonoma, the county itself was all in on Pinot Noir, and they were pushing the boundaries of grape growing further and further west towards the ocean, and Pinot Noir was thriving, and the wines were just getting unbelievable quality, just leaps and bounds every year. The quality was getting better and better. They were planting more and more of the grape. The most talented farmers wanted to farm Pinot Noir. The most talented winemakers wanted to make Pinot Noir. The best terroirs were planted to Pinot Noir. And I stuck my finger in the air and said, if I'm going to be out here, I really got to expand my Pinot game. And so I started knocking on doors, and I expanded my Pinot Noir vineyards from a single vineyard in 2009, 2010 to moving into 4 different Pinot Noir vineyards in 2011. And that was the year that we made our first Bastard Tongue, which, much like the Rayon Vert, the Bastard Tongue is coming from multiple vineyards. The whole idea and the thrust behind the wine is to just make the greatest Pinot Noir we can every year from our selection of vineyards. Now, Pinot Noir has this history of the most cherished bottlings of this grape come from one single vineyard. And that's just sort of the tradition of how Pinot Noir is made, dating back to Burgundy and its history. And in 2011, we flipped that on its head and said, we're going to make our best Pinot Noir, but instead of being from one place and limiting ourselves, let's pull from this terroir that has this flavor profile and match it with this vineyard that has this flavor profile and put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Just make the best Pinot Noir.
To make the most delicious, fun Pinot Noir we possibly can from Sonoma County every year. And that really came from, so as I said, Beth and I were starting to hang out more and more, and we would go to the winery and we'd barrel taste these wines. And while this wine sits in barrel for the better part of 2 years, so over the course of 2 years, we would taste these barrels and see how they played together, and came up with this idea.
So the wines were already barreled, and then you pull them together.
Yeah, so the way we make our wine, so we just finished the 2024 harvest, like last Friday. We sort of sealed the envelope, if you will. And so we pick all our grapes, we bring them into the winery separately from each other, ferment them separately. Like, this is all from vineyards. We keep the vineyards separate from each other. Once they're done fermenting, we separate the juice from the skins. That's called pressing. It goes into barrels, French oak barrels, and then we just leave them be for the better part of 2 years. And then shortly before bottling, we taste all the barrels and start to understand.
Figure out the percentage of each barrel. That is so cool.
You gotta, every year vineyards express themselves differently. There is an overarching theme for sure. But the way the vineyards are going to play with each other every year is going to change depending on Mother Nature, and then also depending on if we add a new vineyard to the portfolio or not. And so we're dealing with all these flavors, sort of like adding spices to a dish.
That is so cool, because I always imagine winemaking being, okay, all these grapes from all these vineyards came in together and we're going to ferment it all together. But like hearing what you said makes so much more sense. They all get fermented and all get barreled into the best possible wine they can be on its own, and then you bring them together, and then create the best wine possible, of the best expression of all of them.
And so that was the Bastard Tongue, and that was 2011 that we made this wine for the first time. It's the longest existing bottling in our portfolio. This wine is the 2021 in your glass, and
it's delicious.
This is the 11th vintage of it, and it's just done so well for us. Like, from word go, it was a huge hit. People loved the name. We'll talk about that in a second.
Please. That was my next question.
So it was a huge hit from word go. People loved the name, but ultimately, if what's in the bottle doesn't live up to their expectations based on the name, you're not going to have a hit year in and year out. And so it's gotten great press from the wine press year in and year out. Every single vintage has gotten 95 plus points, which has been great for us. And every year it seems to build, and in a very significant way, it's the cornerstone of the entire business because it's been so successful, and it's allowed us to expand the business into other grapes and whatnot.
So why is it called the Bastard Tongue?
So why is it called Bastard Tongue? So the word argot it's an interesting word in that it doesn't have a direct translation into English. It's a French word, and it is, because it doesn't have a direct translation into English, we've sort of made it our own. We've taken the idea of what it is, and French, and we've expanded it. And so what the French use it as is it's a language that develops amongst a close-knit group of people that informs their relationship. And so if they have a shared history or if they have a shared interest like wine, they develop this language when they're talking about these things. And it creates an intimacy in the group and a connection in the group. And we loved that idea. And we loved how wine brings people together in that way. And you will see the word in occasionally in wine literature, the argot of wine, because as a wino myself, I can attest the way myself and my fellow winos talk about wine, we sound insane to someone that doesn't necessarily enjoy wine or know that much about it. So, so that's where argot comes from. And when we named the brand, and after that first bottling in 2007, I had come across the word argot in wine literature here and there. And I loved the idea of it. And so when I named the brand Argot, I started doing more research on the word and what is the history of it and all of this. And I came across a quote in a book that said, Argot is a bastard tongue grafted on the mother stem. And that was specifically in reference to language.
Yeah.
And early on, when we bottled wines, we would name every single wine we bottled, we'd give it a different name.
Okay.
And so I always had this bastard tongue in my pocket, and I was waiting for the right moment
for it to shine,
to unleash it. And when Beth and I were, finally gotten comfortable with this idea of making our very best Pinot Noir a blend, I remember one day we were in the winery, and she turned to me and she's like, I think you finally got the wine that you can name Bastard Tongue. And I was like, yes, let's do it. This is perfect.
Amazing.
And
now...
And it was such a hit that, like I said, we were changing the names of our wine every single bottling. This one was such a hit from word go. It was just like...
We'd never change that.
Yeah. Let's not
Can't change it.
Let's not be silly here.
No. Bastard Tongue. So beautiful. Can you tell me a little bit more about... like the flavor profile of Bastard Tongue?
Yeah, absolutely. So Pinot Noir in general, it's a little lighter in its fruit profile than, say, Cabernet Sauvignon. A lot of cherries and red fruits and cranberries, but the telltale of Pinot Noir is it has this great spice component, this great earthiness, this almost softness to it. Think about, if we're going to get romantic here, think about walking through a forest, a misty forest, and you're crunching those leaves under your feet, and it's just releasing that beautiful, comfortable forest floor smell. And a little bit of mushroom, a little bit of pine needle, things like this. And so that's the thing that Sonoma County does so well with Pinot Noir, is it just unleashes.
I can't quite describe this, I like, to me, it's just, when you taste it, it's so soft and like pillowy, but it's very balanced. It's got all the elements that I want. It's fruity, and it's a little piney, and it's got little light floral scent to it as well. It just got all the good elements. Like you said, this is really romantic.
And as you're saying it, like you said, piney, and like right as I'm taking a sip, I'm like, oh yeah, the resiny character in this wine is just so beautiful. And then you said floral, and what popped into my mind was cardamom in that moment. Like it's got that floral, spicy element to it.
I'm like thinking a little bit of that Ponderosa pine.
Love it.
Because it's got a little like caramel sort of, very light, like you said, resiny as well.
Yeah.
It's so delicious.
And that is, that particular aspect comes from the more coastal regions of Sonoma County, where you're pulling a lot of fog in off the Pacific Ocean, because Sonoma County does run all the way to the ocean. Sonoma County does have beaches, but they're not very well known because they're not very inviting.
Is it like cliffy?
They're windy. It is pretty cliffy. Like it's not like LA where you have these beautiful expansive beaches. It's windy, it's cold, it's overcast a lot of the time, and
to me, it's always so cool. Like, terroir can change so much depending on the region, even if you're in the same county.
Oh yeah.
It just mind blowing. And I always want to learn more about, like, okay, the mist, how does that change the flavors of the grape? And if it's the soil is a little clayer, what does that change?
You're
If
right.
it's like
Yeah.
an hour more sun than another region, how does that change? There's
All
just so
makes a
many
difference.
variables.
Yeah, and Sonoma County is so vast and has so many microclimates, and geologically speaking, the soils are incredibly dramatic. We have all that seismic activity in Sonoma or in California, especially as you move towards the ocean. So it's just the earth in upheaval, as our friends in Sebastopol, California, that's their bumper sticker. So
awesome.
it's so true. And so, like, that was one of the things about this particular wine that we love so much. We have so many different colors to paint with when it comes to putting this wine together each year, that it's definitely challenging and stressful to put the blend together each year for the Bastard Tongue, but it's also so much fun, and when it's over, it's very rewarding.
do you get very overwhelmed when you're putting this together? It's like, is this the best it can be?
So one of the things, this is something Beth and I talk about a lot, because she is self-professed as not a great decision maker. Like, she agonizes over decision making, and I say to her all the time, one of the most important traits as a winemaker is just pull the trigger.
Yeah.
You just got to pull the trigger, and there's no wrong answers.
Right.
There's the decision you make and where it leads you, and you go from there. And second guessing yourself's pointless. It's
I need to write that down in my notebook.
you don't want to oversalt things, but because you can't take the salt out. But small moves, be deliberate, know what you're working with.
Yeah, and just be proud of what you're making, and you're making delicious wines.
We're very proud of all these wines. This wine in particular, the 2021 Bastard Tongue, is certainly one of my favorite wines we've ever made.
So good.
It's a winner. Let's
Right.
move on to Syrah, because as I mentioned earlier,
You started with Syrah.
the very first wine in 2007 was a Bennett Valley Syrah, and Syrah carries some color, that's for sure.
Color is so beautiful.
And so this is our Indigo Syrah. So these first three wines that we've tasted together are all in the same part of the portfolio. So that is our Barrel Select Sonoma County wines. And so we make Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Syrah. We work in multiple vineyards for each of these varieties. And when it comes time to put together the vintage, we lay all the barrels out from the vineyards we work with, and we taste through them, and we put together the blend for the best wine possible. And like I was saying, the Bastard Tongue was sort of the mother of this idea of putting together the best wines we possibly can from a given vintage from the vineyards we work with. And so Syrah is a completely different animal than Pinot Noir. This is dark, this is wild, it has almost a feral element to it. The fruit is incredibly deep and incredibly intense. It has almost gamey notes to it, smoked
it's
meat.
Savory.
Very savory,
it's
yeah.
very savory. I was gonna say when I smelled it, I was like, ham?
A lot of people say that Syrah has a very bacon-like note to it.
Yeah. I feel like it's not as bacony, like not that smoky, but like maybe ham smoky.
And then this particular part of Sonoma County, Sonoma Mountain, where we grow our Syrah, is up at elevation, up at 1,000 feet. It's a very stressful place for these vines to grow. It's a very long season. We're generally not picking this fruit until the second part of October, so it's very late for us. And what you end up with is this beautiful rendition of Syrah that really does harken back to the native home of Syrah in France, called the Northern Rhone region of France. And you get saddle leather, you get smoked meats, as I was saying, almost like an irony quality to it, a sanguine quality. The fruits themselves are incredibly dark, very
It's
black
very
fruited.
deep. It's very like irony almost.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
just-
definitely. And these wines go fantastic with heartier dishes. Like cassoulet is one of my favorite Syrah pairings. And the nice thing about this particular part of the world in growing Syrah is these wines, to me, always have a beautiful floral element to them, almost like a lavender or a white flower, eucalyptus.
I love that you named this one Indigo. It's
So, yes,
it's very suiting for the taste of this.
Yes, this is very regal, very powerful, very
It's
dark.
very, very powerful. It's very rich.
Absolutely, and that's how we like our Syrahs. We like our Syrahs to be very rich. It's not see-through in any way. Yeah.
Like the color, I'm just looking at the glare on this side. It still coats the glass so well, and the color is just so pretty.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
I could and this bottle of wine is going to go so far. 'Cause
Yes.
you can each sip lingers for so long, and I'm still I had a sip maybe a minute ago, and I'm still tasting
Still
different
unspooling on the
flavors.
back of the palate.
Yeah, different layers, different flavors. I was like, this little glass is gonna last me all night.
It will, and it'll keep you warm.
And it's also so pretty. So I just stare at it as I drink, and this is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I see you have beautiful custom art on the bottle.
Yeah, so a friend of ours is a graphic designer, and he has built this great business doing beer cans.
That's awesome.
You know, yeah, so
one
much.
of my favorite graphic.
Right. And so I went to him and I was like, hey, do you want to do something in the same world but totally different than anything you've done before? And he's like, let's do it. That'll be great. And so we'll come to him with an idea. And frankly, for this one, I came to him and I was like, here's the word, indigo. Here's the wine. What do you think? And he came up with that in pretty short order. And it's the cool thing about indigo is it's this part of the light spectrum that over the course of history, it's been argued over whether or not it actually exists.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of this fleeting part of the spectrum that lives between blue and violet.
Right.
And it's like, what is indigo? And it's fleeting. It's sort of hard to wrap your head around. And I've just always loved that aspect of the story.
That's a beautiful concept. And now it has a color.
Now it has a color.
Almost like fall leaves.
I love
I
it.
feel like tannin, a little bit of the tannin.
Yeah.
It's the perfect season for drinking this wine
It
right
really
now.
is. It really is, yeah.
This morning we were moving all the equipment up. I was like, it's so cold. I need something
This
warm.
is not a breakfast wine.
No, this is not a breakfast wine. Right now is the perfect time. Watching the fall sunset, gorgeous fall sunset, and have a glass of this.
Throw a log on the fire.
Yes.
Yeah, get at it.
Yes.
A little charcuterie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Holidays is also a great time for just sharing this bottle with you can share with 6 people, I feel like.
Sure, absolutely.
And it goes really far.
It'll go the distance
Yeah.
for sure.
I'm happy.
Beautiful. So, over the course of Argo's history, we've always sort of been a Sonoma winery. That's where we started. That's where we live to this day. That's where the winery where we make our wines are. But over the course of since 2018, we've slowly expanded our Napa portfolio. And so at this point, Argo is 60% Sonoma wine, 40% Napa Cab. And we made our first Napa Cab in 2010, and I was a little slow to embrace the Napa side of the world we live in. Being a Sonoma person, I'm such a homer for where I come from, and I was always like, I'm never gonna go to the other side of the hill and make Napa Cab. Yet I said that, but in the back of my mind, I was definitely longingly looking over the hill, looking east over the hill. And 2010 got the first opportunity to work with Cabernet from Napa, and absolutely fell in love with making wine over there. The ambition on the Napa side of the hill is massive, as you can imagine.
Yeah,
you don't get that
can't
level
imagine.
of
It's
popularity
insane.
and notoriety without massive ambition. And so it's a lot of fun working over on that side of the hill and working with Napa Cab. And absolutely one of the most famous wine regions in the world, if not the most famous wine region in the world. And so over the course of the 2010s, really didn't make much Cabernet. 50 cases here, 75 cases there. These are small amounts for a professional winery. I don't know if we were a professional winery back then, but and so just kept falling deeper and deeper in love with making Cabernet Sauvignon and working in those vineyards. And by the 2019 vintage, we had 3 different Napa Cabernet vineyards we were working in. We were making a handful of bottlings, and in 2019, that was the first year we worked with this particular vineyard in Oakville, which is one of the most famous subregions in Napa for growing Cabernet. And this vineyard's called Bonnie's Vineyard, which is a historic spot in Oakville. It is the home vineyard for the couple that founded Silver Oak Wines, the Bonnie and Justin Meyer, the founders of Silver Oak. And I happened to cross paths with their son. It's now a second-generation vineyard. They still own it. Bonnie still owns the house on the vineyard where she raised her kids.
Aww.
Pretty cool.
So cute.
And so I crossed paths with Matt, her son, who manages the vineyard, and talked to him about buying fruit from there. And he was like, you and your wife remind me of my parents when they started, which is pretty cool. And so that first year, 2019, we worked with Bonnie's Vineyard, and I was just pinching myself. I was like, I can't believe I'm in a historic vineyard on the floor of Napa Valley, buying Cabernet grapes from Bonnie's Vineyard, the great
You
Bonnie's
made
Vineyard.
it.
Yes, very much so. It felt like legitimizing everything. Yeah. So this wine in front of us is the 2021. So this is our second time bottling the Bonnie's Vineyard Cabernet, because we did not make a 2020 due to the wildfires out in Napa that year. Very sad. But this is the first year we were able to put Bonnie's name on the bottle. Prior, the agreement was you can work with the fruit, but my mom's not ready to let someone outside of the family put her name on the bottle. So, but the relationship we've garnered with them has been so fantastic, and they loved the 2019 wine we made so much that prior to us bottling this, they got in touch with us and said,
okay,
my mom's given you her blessing to use her name on the bottle. And so this is the very first Bonnie's Vineyard we made. And since we bottled this, we've been moved into the old vine portion of the vineyard, and we've been given the chance to expand our reach in the vineyard. So it's absolutely a cornerstone of our Napa portfolio. We make 3 vineyard designate Cabernet Sauvignons from Napa. This one being the largest production of the 3.
That is so huge. Like when you said that, it literally gave me goosebumps. I was like, oh.
It's pretty cool. When it happened, it
makes me wanna
literally
cry.
gave me goosebumps. And one of the things I love about Bonnie's Vineyard and the terroir itself is, of our 3 Cabernet vineyards, this is the one that the earth really speaks through. The terroir just comes up and out of the glass. It's so it has this beautiful savory note. It's undeniably Napa Cabernet. It's got that great intense Cabernet fruit character that Napa consumers love. But this vineyard, it instills so much complexity into the wine. It is definitely not a one-trick pony. What are you getting out of it?
I'm so busy right now. I was like, oh, there's so many smells. What is this? I feel like green pepper a little bit.
Sure.
Like the green chili kind of.
It's more of a chili to me as well.
It's chili, yeah. Because we just came back from a trip from Santa Fe, and we ate a ton of green chilies. I was like, oh,
That's so
reminds
cool.
me of the green chili flavor.
And don't they call, what is it,
Hatch chilies.
Hatch chilies?
Yeah.
Don't they call it the Napa of... Don't they throw the word Napa around there in New Mexico? You were in New Mexico?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
see it
remember seeing
on the
that.
jarred stuff you buy in the...
Oh, really?
The Napa Valley.
Napa of green chili. Yeah. Napa Valley of green
But
chilies.
it is interesting because that is one of the telltale flavors of Cabernet Sauvignon.
Really?
There is that herbal note to it.
I feel like I feel like I never noticed it. Or
So you get it more from the Bordeaux's, from the wines from Bordeaux, which is a Cabernet-based wine. But as you're experiencing right now, it is very much a part of Napa Cabernet as well, especially the more traditional ones. And this is packed with black fruit and red currants, but it's got that great granite character to it, the hatch chilies. Yeah, I just absolutely love this vineyard and the way the terroir flexes its muscles.
It's amazing. I sometimes feel like, so you're telling me that Cabernet Sauvignon has a certain taste, has a certain characteristic, but to me, all the Cabernets I've tasted are all so different. Like some shines through like so much more than others, and especially like in some other winemakers that you would get in big box stores. I feel like they blend it too much, perhaps, and all I get is like either the barrel or just like
things come a little bit to a middle.
Yeah, it's just kind of like sort of flat. That's why when I was tasting this and smelling this, I was just so excited. Just like, there's this, there's that, there's this and that. Like I can't quite pinpoint what every flavor is, but it's a lot and it's different through every sip and every smell. And as like the further you go, the more you discover, and it's so fun.
I love that.
It's so fun.
I can't improve upon that. That's perfect.
No, that's why I love tasting wine with you or with Tyler, for example.
Yeah.
It's like you guys have totally ruined me. Like I don't buy wine. I can't drink wine anymore.
Mission accomplished.
Unless like I see, ooh, Argo. Okay, that I'm like getting that off the shelf for sure. It. Thank you so much for tasting with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
This is so cool. So if our audience want to learn more about Argo and your wine or purchase them, where would they find you? Where can they find you?
We have a website, argowines.com, but of course we're on all the social media feeds as well. Mostly Instagram is the one we keep the most active, so Argo Wines on Instagram. Find us there. We are distributed in 17 different states in the U.S. We're also in Canada, Japan, the U.K., Denmark. We're all over the place.
You're in Japan? My mind's blown. Amazing. That's great.
Yeah, just come to our website, shoot us an email. It'll definitely be either Beth or I that respond to you. That's the sort of business we are.
Small business.
Yeah, small business, and we're having a great time, and we'd love to hear from you. So
yeah, that's awesome. Amazing. So everybody, please visit Justin. Keep DMing Justin or Beth through Argo Wine and have a good chat about wine and find out where to get their delicious wine because you really don't want to miss out. This is delicious.
A lot of fun. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So great.
How was the Syrah, Tyler?
Great.
Syrah is so crazy. All of these wines are so crazy.
Oh yeah, what'd you think? Now that you're off the mic.
So good. No, it was Anna's opinion on mic.
I appreciate it.
I honestly feel like we didn't talk enough about the Chardonnay because we didn't talk about how insane it is.
Awesome.
It is so vanilla-y and like, I don't know, creamy is the right word. I'm probably using all the wrong word.
No, absolutely.
But it's so delicious.
For the Chardonnay, creamy, super important. I love that. Of all my wines, I want them to hug your tongue.
Yeah.
Like
they're all thicker. Nothing like a lot of wine like kind of scratches your tongue and just like goes away, but all of yours like coats the tongues and lingers and hang out for a while.
That's how it persists. Yeah.
It's so awesome.
And the Chardonnay though, with white wines, if it's all texture, if it's all creaminess, it's too heavy and it gets exhausting to drink. So like having that edge running down the middle of the palate is so important to me. And so we work with Chardonnay vineyards where the natural acidity of the grapes is really high. And so that keeps the brightness on the palate, that keeps the edge and the grip, balancing all those creamy textures. And then, I mean, I could go on endlessly about making Chardonnay. It's my favorite grape to actually make as a winemaker because every decision you make winemaking wise with Chardonnay, you really get a sense of it coming out the other end. Whereas with red wines, there's so much power to them inherently that you don't get quite the same
What you wanted to shine through
pull
doesn't
through.
always shine through.
Well,
yeah.
ultimately, like
It's there,
the
but
power of the
yeah.
grapes is what takes center stage.
Yeah.
But
That is
yeah,
so
with
cool.
Chardonnay, it's making the wine is a lot of fun, and getting a sense of what comes out the other side is really gratifying. And yeah, it's you can endlessly tinker with the way you make Chardonnay, and there's a gratification to it.
I think that's why I probably could never make wine, is because I feel like there are endless ways to make each wine.
It's an infinite matrix.
And I'll just like mess with it forever. I'll never release anything. Like I'll never release anything because I just feel like it's not done yet. It's not done yet. It's not done yet.
There are people that have that problem.
That would be me.
The Da Vinci problem, you know?
The Da Vinci
Right.
problem.
When it's done.
How many times did he edit the Mona Lisa?
When it's done, leave me alone.
But that Chardonnay seemed to resonate with you.
Yes. Like all of these, I don't know. I just like had a little like mind blow moment with each of them. I was like, oh wait, I'm supposed to talk. Oh hi. I was just gonna sit here and like with my wine and like hang out and like really think about all these things, all the flavors in it.
So cool.
It's so good.
Well, thank you.